Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome one, welcome all. And that's what the rural little towns are. Well, I don't know if they're saying that or not. They're probably being overwhelmed with all the people that are moving into them.
Yes, they're becoming very busy.
So we've been all over like 4 or 5 western states here in the U.S., and especially in the very, very most remotest of areas, which is where we always tend to gravitate to. And we're hearing the same thing. We've talked to many real estate agents. I've dealt with the real estate agents and, again, all over the Southwest. And they're all saying the same thing when they're in the rural areas. They're saying they've never seen anything like this, that their home sales are like 4 or 5 times what they usually are.
And we do see the pending sales out of all the things we have looked at. It shows up pending.
So as you see here, everyone is leaving cities this year. And these are the things no one tells you. And this is talking about one family that moved from San Francisco into suburban Michigan. But really, there's a mass exodus going on right now out of cities.
There really is. It's really incredible. And a lot of real estate agents have been caught off guard.
Yeah, there is definitely a housing boom going on, but it's not the usual boom, and it's not in the usual places, and people tend to do things in stages and steps. So I'm somebody that grew up 30 miles from New York, and at a certain time prior to 9/11, I started to feel just I couldn't take the energies. And we started to take vacations in rural Carolinas mostly, occasionally down into Florida. And I really fell in love with the Carolinas and especially South Carolina. But I love both of them, really. I mean, I've lived over in the Asheville area, very close to Waynesville. And for me, Waynesville is like a perfect town. It's about 5,000 people, I think. I loved it. I love Waynesville. Lived in Wilmington, loved Wilmington too. Fantastic town. I've lived in South Carolina, many places. For work, I lived in Hilton Head. I lived in the Columbia area, a tiny town called Elgin, and over on the other side of town in Lexington and Irmo. And I've enjoyed all those places. What I've found is that my increased sensitivity to energy and to everything that's going through the airwaves, the invisible things we don't see, the energy from Wi-Fi, the energy from FIVE, everything adds up. And as we grow in our spirituality and our sensitivity, and many people that had thought that they were empathic are finding out now they're super empaths, very, very empathetic. And just finding that need to get away from everything and all the craziness. More and more people are discovering a little paradise out in the boondocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of found out the hard way with my sensitivity. Being in the city in California nearly killed me. So we really have to pay attention to our surroundings.
Yeah, as we see here, the impact of obviously the plague on the land, that's one thing. That's causing a lot of people to, well, some cases downsize. If you have a house that's in a city that maybe costs like $650,000 if you're in California, or $700 or $1 million, and you go see what you could buy out in the suburbs of maybe Bozeman, Montana, where Montana's got people fleeing en masse from California, and people from California have fled en masse to places like Boise, Idaho, and Boise's booming. People are leaving for political reasons a lot, not liking what they're seeing in Washington, Oregon, and California, and heading to Idaho, where the politics are a little different and the lifestyle's a little more laid back. Most definitely there's winners and losers here when it comes to these markets. And it's going to cause, as you see here, boom in rural towns and a big real estate vacuum in the cities. Interestingly enough, if you guys have studied Agenda 21 and 2030, there was a definite push to kind of herd people into mega cities. And what's happening now is just the opposite. People are heading for the hills. because of the political tensions, the protests they've seen. So there's a huge variety of things going on. Also now, with also the lockdown, more people than ever are working remotely. So why not go somewhere where it costs a third, or even sometimes maybe even as much as a tenth, compared to living in, say, New York City or LA or San Fran?
I know. So, working remotely seems like it's the thing of the future. It's a wave. It's interesting.
It's a huge wave, and everything is changing. It's getting totally turned upside down, as we see here out of San Francisco Chronicle. Yeah, people are leaving San Francisco after decades of growth as a city on decline. Well, how about the whole state of California? California for the first year had a net loss of population. First time ever. And of course, some of that's just overtaxation, for sure. And, when you look at what people have to pay in California on average in the bigger cities and all, to just have a modest lifestyle, it's huge. It's exorbitant. And so, why strive and work your life away, to overpay? And then when you have the earth changes and you have the wildfires going in there, I've seen people that, like Jane Tandy, who has a channel, she watched like 2 years of wildfires getting close to her, and then this year she said, you know what, I'm out California, I'm heading out. And so she left California. I think she just went to Nevada, though. I think either Nevada or Idaho. And as we see here, new homes on the range. Weary city dwellers escape to Montana, creating a property gold rush. And yeah, so in places like Bozeman, which we have a good friend of ours, Dr. Rich, he's finding himself over in Bozeman now, unexpectedly, but that's what's, sometimes these things happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's his last stop, but it's his stop for now.
And, Connecticut's seeing a home sale boom right now because people are fleeing Manhattan. And this is what I was going to get to when I was going to finish my thought. So you have the people that lived in, say, a place like Manhattan. Now they're like, well, I'll put up with the commute. Let's go look at Fairfield County. Let's look at Westchester. Maybe, a nice town like Ridgefield in Connecticut. There's, some beautiful towns there. And so, instead of, a small apartment that might cost $2,000 or $2,500 a month for a tiny little apartment in Manhattan, they could buy themselves a home and pay the same mortgage and, be somewhere that many will consider safer, more peaceful, more quiet. And then you have the people that are living in Fairfield County and stuff, if I'm just using Connecticut because I'm so familiar with it, now they might be heading up to the Litchfield Hills. They might be maybe they're even heading to Vermont, as we've had quite a few of the people we know from that area talking about, well, we're looking at property in Vermont or New Hampshire or Maine, just looking to get a little farther out. And so rural Wisconsin seeing a boom too. And there's something called Zoom towns, which are booming. So a lot of places where people used to go just to get away for vacation, now they're thinking more in terms of, wouldn't it be nice to live there, to get out of these big cities, the hecticness, the craziness in many cases. Look what's happened with Seattle and Portland.
Mm-hmm. And some of these little towns are experiencing growing pains. And that does happen when towns get more people in. They don't have the resources, and it can get hectic.
So talking about the Poconos, for instance, or Hilton Head, both places that I've visited, and beautiful. And actually, I lived in Hilton Head for a year and a half, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It was basically, I was an on-site manager of a retirement community, and so I had to live on-site and basically respond to emergencies overnight and everything. I was definitely the first responder whenever there was an emergency, and it was quite a learning experience. And as you see, all the moving trends are upended, and you might be surprised to find that, you might have trouble getting a U-Haul if you're in some of these big cities.
Yeah, don't do it on the weekends.
Yeah, it could be crazy. So very interesting, guys, as we prepare to roll through these times. The other thing that we haven't mentioned is homesteading. And is just being able to actually grow your own food. And this is another thing that I think a lot of people are coming to terms with. Because, it's pretty obvious that the food situation is heading into a critical area. And we're going to see rapid inflation. We're going to see shortages. And so being able to maybe have some chickens for some eggs, being able to, maybe get a greenhouse going and having year-round fresh veggies that you are producing for your family is something more and more people are considering.
Yeah, I think we can start fairly simply and then expand from there.
Most definitely. So as always, guys, we are very thankful for your support and all the Patreons out there, and also those who have supported us on Ko-Fi. If anybody needs to make a session with us, feel free. Just reach out to EEARTS@protonmail.com or evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. As always, stay prepared. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.